Okay, let's get started now. Can you hear me at the back? Is it okay? Yeah. Okay, welcome to EECS2030. I'm your instructor here. So don't be too surprised, I'm bringing two microphones, I'm experimenting. I'm trying to record my lecture so I can post it after class for you, for study. I'm still experimenting, so technology sometimes fail, but hopefully it will work from start. Let me talk through a few administrative issues before we go to the course contents. We got a lot of exciting things to learn in this course. Since you just came from the first year, so I think there will be some stuff we'd like to clarify before we start. Okay, let me just go through some slides, and if you got any questions, please just feel free to interrupt me, okay? Okay, just a little bit about your instructor. How should you call me? So feel free to call me Jackie. That's absolutely fine. Or if you want to call me Professor Wang, Sir, or whatever, that's fine, but Jackie is more preferred. Okay. And let me just fix my slides here a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, so my office is LaSalle Building 2043. I'll refer you to the course website in just a minute, and you will find all the necessary information there. And there will be office hours for you to drop by and ask me questions. So it will be 1:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. You can drop by any time in these time slots. Or you can just drop me an email for questions, or you can make appointments. Okay, so I'm new to York. This is my very first semester, but I did my undergraduate here. I graduated 2006. I did my undergraduate here. Yeah. And then I went out to do my PhD, came back for my postdoc, and then went out again to South Korea to work for 2 years, and then I came back. So that's kind of, I'm moving around. I've been teaching, but for York, this is the first time. So please do help me if you got any suggestion for teaching a large class. This is really my first time, so please help me out. Okay, let's talk about the course information you should know. First of all, there are two places you should go regularly. So first of all, you should always go to the LaSalle website. We're okay. Thank you so much. So the first place you should go is go to the course Moodle. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you received some emails already from Professor Ma. So he is the course director. He sent you some message already. So go there and log in and look for section A there. But there's another website you should really also go to. So this is the website I'll show you now. So that's my York page. Over there, you can find the lecture slides, tutorial videos, or even lecture recordings. So I think, but you should really check both. Both are important. Okay, if you click on that link, that's what you will show. Okay, just click on that. So it tells you that you should always check for the course Moodle. For example, for the lab instructions, I don't post my lab instructions here because all the labs among all the 3 sections are shared. So that's why I leave it to the course Moodle site. So on this page here, you can find lecture slides. For example, you can find my information here. And there's a course syllabus, which you should really look into details. I will talk about it in just a moment. So there are the lecture notes for today. And sometimes you will see that the lecture slides says still incomplete, which means you may not want to print them just yet, just to save papers. I'll let you know when the slides are complete, because as we go for the lecture, sometimes I might find some typos or to add some slides. So, but for today, we do have the slides already. You can feel free to download to your laptop and look at the slides. That's why I sent you an email a few days ago to bring your laptop. That's why. Okay, I'll talk about the slides in just a moment. Let's look at the course syllabus. Okay. So if you go there, you can, again, my information here, and that's the prerequisite. Please make sure you're really satisfied with prerequisites, otherwise you'll be de-enrolled from the course, okay? And here's a course description. It wouldn't make sense to talk about it now, so I would say look at that yourself, and then we'll gradually talk about it later. And these are the course learning outcomes for the course, which means these are the goals we are hoping to achieve to train you as a computer scientist after this course. And in particular, this is your very first course in the second year. There are many other more challenging courses like 2011 on data structure, operating systems, software design, many other courses. They all depend on your knowledge and how hard you really work in this course. So I would suggest go through the learning outcomes. They may not make too much sense to you at the moment, but at least have some idea. Okay. Course learning outcomes and also lecture time and the labs. So for the labs, for lab number 0 for this week, we got 2 sections of the lab. So we got Tuesday and Thursday. For today, you were supposed to start completing your lab number 0. You should have received a Moodle message from Professor Ma last night about lab number 0. We don't have any TA help scheduled in the lab for this lab because they're self-contained. It's just for you to familiarize yourself with the prison lab. Okay? So please, if you haven't got a message, it can be because you haven't registered in the course. By the way, if you haven't registered in the course, but you want to, I'm not the best person to talk to. So you're welcome to sit into my course, but to really officially register, you should talk to the departments. Just go to the departments and then talk to a lady called Stephanie. So she will be the person to help you. Okay? And class attendance is such a huge class. I used to take attendance for a class of size 7 or 50 even, but I don't think I will take any attendance. Okay? However, I think it's really your responsibility to come to every class, and you'll soon realize I really like to do a lot of illustrations, code examples, and try to do something to really help you understand in the lecture. I do encourage you to participate every class. If you really have to miss the class for any legitimate reason, that's okay. If I can successfully work out the technology for recording lecture, feel free to watch them. Okay. Lab tests. So let's talk about grading scheme first. That might be what you really care at the moment the most. So this is how we're going to assess you in the course. So first of all, there will be lab submissions, which will account for 10% of your grade. I'll talk a little bit more details about this. We still need to agree with other instructors in the other 2 sections. But you should definitely finish lab 0 as soon as possible. There will be 4 lab tests. I'm pretty sure you have done some lab tests in the first year, right? Which means you have no internet, no USB, no friends, so just yourself in isolation, okay? So that's how we decide to assess you, okay? I will talk about the dates in just a moment. So one thing you should really, hopefully will even motivate you to really come to my class. So we decided the lab tests are all different among the sections, which means I'm completely in charge of designing the questions for the lab test. And typically my style is I test you something I have taught you already. Okay, so I really encourage you to come. Okay. So there'll be 4 lab tests, 15% each, and we also got a final exam, 30%. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about it maybe towards the end of the term. Okay, so that's the grade breakdown. If you miss a lab test, you have to provide the documentation, doctor's notes or whatever that's to prove that you really got a legitimate reason to miss the lab test, and then we'll try to accommodate you. Okay, so please keep that in mind, but try not to miss the test. The dates are really set hard already. So let me tell you the dates. You can really check them over here. So there is a tentative course schedule at the end of the syllabus here. So you will see that your very first lab test would be September 28th for the Thursday section, and October 3rd for the Tuesday section. I know that for Thursday people, I do appreciate you think for the Tuesday people, they got 1 more weekend to really prepare. I do see the points. I would complain if I were you, but I will try to make it as fair as possible because the 2 sections are going to write different versions of the test. Might be slightly harder for the Tuesday section, might be more or less the same, but I will see. But I would say, if you're really behind, try not to rely on the last weekend before the lab test. That would be my advice. Try to speak to me as soon as possible when you get into trouble. Okay. Okay, you can see the other 2 lab tests over here, the other 3. Okay. The last one will be sometime in November, but you can check. Okay. So it's really important that you go through the syllabus very carefully. There's also a more detailed syllabus, more in the context of the entire class. On the Moodle page, that's something you should read. Check it out. before you get too busy with the technical contents of the course. Okay. Any questions until now? Yes?
Between different sections of EECS2030, are the tests like similar or are they like completely different?
What I can tell you is we are going to somehow agree on the level of difficulty. If we think they are similarly difficult, then yeah, that's all we're going to check. Of course, it's really up to us. But I would say, let me give you a tip. To really pass my course, pay attention to what I say in the class. Yeah. Well, that might be true for every class, right? Not just my class. Okay, about calculating your grades. So you can easily find this table here from the York website. That's how we interpret A+, A, B+, and B. So somehow along the way of the course, you're going to calculate the numerical score of your of what you have achieved so far by using the grading table. However, it will be up to my entire judgment to see, maybe I think, oh, maybe for this class, 80% should mean A+. Maybe in this class, for this term, everybody's doing so well. Maybe 70% should still be an F, something like that, right? So I leave that flexible for myself, also for you. So don't really get too stressed out with the numerical score. Just do your best. Okay, that's what I would say. Any questions? No? Okay, let's go over a little bit more on the administrative issue. Okay, let me just close that page, but make sure you know the URL. But in case you really forget, you can send me an email. Okay, so that's about the course syllabus for this section here. And then, okay, you should really check also check your emails very regularly, like the email I sent out the other day. So please make sure you really got the email from me or from the course Moodle website. So typically, I will post the lecture slides soon after the class, but for today is a little bit exceptional. I'll try to post them beforehand so you can download. I'll try, but you should really try to. I'll talk about some study tips for you in just a moment. I'll try to also record my lecture here, and also there will be source code for you to download and tutorial videos. Okay, let's have a policy here. That's my #1 policy. Please, it's a large class. I wouldn't mind you asking questions, but please, one person at a time. Please, don't chat. Okay, please. Use of mobile, I cannot really just try to single out one person and say you should not use mobile. That's not something I would do. I don't have the time because I need to look after the majority. But I would say, please notice that if you're presenting here, so if you see somebody not really paying attention to what you say, they use a mobile. It's quite distracting and disrespectful. Okay, so in the class, we're gonna need your engagement, so please ask me questions, please. So I wouldn't mind slowing down or even go behind the schedule, as long as you got questions. Okay, I'll do lots of illustration, and then now this would be a little bit old school style. In my days, not many people actually use laptop or even iPad, in the class. But I would say if you really like, you'll find that taking notes in my class will be quite worth doing. So you can invest yourself maybe a notebook. You can either type notes on your computer or you can just write. I'm going to write a lot, either on my iPad or on the chalkboard. Okay, that's something I will suggest you do. Of course, sometimes you might take some incomplete notes. That's fine. Just show it to me during my office hour and ask me to explain again. I'm happy to do that. Okay. And then if you really want to take a photo of the chalkboard or the illustration before I wipe it out, feel free to tell me to stop. Okay, I'll let you do it. Okay, after all, we have lots to cover set by the department. So, but I think your understanding is still the first priority. If you really want me to slow down, just say it out. Okay, don't be shy. Okay, attendance, I said that already. So you should really come to every class. Lab tests, I talked about them already. And I'm going to give you some study guide about 1 week before the lab test to say what area you should really focus on. But I would say really pay attention to the code example I do in the class and also to all the lab exercises. Something about academic integrity. So basically this means whenever we say you're going to submit something for grading, make sure that's your individual work. You should not share or you should not provide any solution to your friend or share from somebody else, okay? That's something I'm pretty sure you know already from the first year, okay? So please read this very carefully because university take academic dishonesty very seriously. Okay, what's this course really about? Okay, before I go to the very first topic, which will be another set of slides, let me just set some context for this course. So think about what you did in your first year. So I suppose all of you are computer science major. So in your 10, 11, not 10, 11, 10, 12. In your 10, 12, you did HTML. You did some web programming. In 10, 22, you did Android programming, mobile app. I'm pretty sure I had a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure. However, that's not really what you will really face when you go to industry as a software developer when you graduate, if that's kind of your job. Because typically when you're given a problem to solve, people don't necessarily will bother to show you, to say, oh, here's a fidget board, here's an Android tablet. Now, this is how you are supposed to program so that it's going to show this. People might typically just give you a Java method name, the signature, the return type, the input and the output, and also some use cases, and that's it, and say program that. And you got to make sure everything works according to what people tell you, right? That's kind of the thing you will be facing later on, not necessarily every time just fidget board or Android tablets. So that's something we would really like you to make a smooth transition into later courses, like 2011, for example. That might be a course you will take next semester. Okay. So what this course is about, we're trying to solve problems, and we're going to use Java, which you learned from 1022. We're going to solve problems there. So you want to come up with some classes, or we call it software artifacts. So I will talk more about the object orientation. For the first week, we're going to do something just to warm up, okay? And then you're going to express your solutions in Java, okay? That's kind of the big picture for this course. And to really adapt yourself to the second year. So you should not always rely on something that's very vivid, something that's very fun, something that's very explicit. We will try to be as clear as possible. That doesn't mean we're always going to give you a fidget board or Android tablets, right? So you will see things like that. I'll try to train you gradually with that. Okay, you can read that. Okay, we don't need to spend too much time on this. One more thing that's interesting to the last point there. My laser point is not really working well. So I'm going to include a link to you maybe after class. I forgot to do that before the lecture. So there's a link about how they do interview at Google. You know how they do that? They ask you to program on a whiteboard. So they will tell you to say, okay, Jackie, this is a problem, and you're trying to solve. They give you some kind of vague description. And then they tell you, okay, present your solution on the whiteboard. And you can write whatever language you like. You can write it in Java, you can write it in JavaScript, it can be maybe C#, it can be C++. However, you better make sure whatever you write on the board makes sense. Makes sense means you better compile in some way. And also it should be reasonably correct. So that's something maybe you haven't been trained in the first year. But we would like you to go towards that direction so we can prepare you well for your job, or if you want to do other profession. Okay, just one more thing to mention. So for any one of you who actually needs some accommodation for the test exam, if you got any special situation you think I should be aware of, so please approach me either by email or in private, and we can work out something to help you learn, get the most out of the course. Okay? Any questions before I move on to the course contents? No? Good. Okay. Okay, so first week, and we'll see how well we do. Well, if we go a little bit behind, that's fine. So our first topic is going to talk about classes. However, that's not kind of the most common classes you will see in Java, but we're trying to simplify the matter a little bit just for the first week, just to get you warm up. It's something called utility classes. Utility classes are also classes, but it's a special kind. What's so special about it? Maybe you have seen a keyword called static back in the first year. So you will see a lot of static in the utility classes. I'm going to explain to you what static really means in just a moment. But for utility classes, that wouldn't be the common cases in Java, but we just want you to start with something. And at the same time, I can review some basic concept from your first year. Oh, I forgot one more thing to mention. So if you go to the section website, let me just show you. Sorry, not this one. Okay, let me go there very quickly. So if you go there, sorry, that's my page. So you can go to courses 2030. Okay, this page here. So you will see that there's a section there called the background studies. So there's certain things which we wouldn't have time to talk about because we assume you already learned them reasonably well from the first year, such as you have to know how to do assignments in Java, you know about the primitive type, remember integer, double, float, etc. And also you talk selection, like if then else statements, and how to do loops, right? Those things are something you should really try to catch up before we go deep into the course. So I included some slides for you to study. You can, it's optional if you feel confident about what you have known already. That's fine. You don't need to study them. But if you really want to catch up, or you want to refresh, feel free to refer to the slides. If you got any question about the slides, drop by my office hour. Okay. 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 Let's now talk about utility classes. Okay. So yes. Oh, good question. I'm glad you asked. I'm pretty sure you'll find out anyway. So one-up version is basically what you will see here. So I would suggest you download the one-up version to your computer, okay? Because it got all sorts of very nice hyperlink. For example, if you click on the lesson page here, it shows you the index of the slides, like a map. You can go to a particular slide over here, and then you can also click on the page here. That's also a hyperlink to go to the index. If you click on lesson again, something like that. So that's a one-up version. The four-up version means it's a version for you to print out if you wish. Okay, just 4 slides per page. Okay, I hope that's convenient for you. Okay. Okay. Okay, I suppose many of you already got your laptop with the Eclipse installed. So if you haven't, that's okay. Please try to do that by Tuesday, our next class. But because today, I think I'll do a little bit demo. I will do quite a bit of programming just to help you get warm up. Okay, first of all, let's talk about when you use Eclipse. I'm going to show you how to use Eclipse. Okay. So let's launch your Eclipse. So you should have an icon like this, right? If you click on that, so from my instructions, I told you that you should be okay if you see something like this, right? So basically, Eclipse works in the units of workspaces. So every time you, let's say for this particular course, I would suggest you store somewhere in your computer a folder. Maybe you call it EECS2030 workspace, something like that. It can be on the desktop, can be on your document folder, wherever. And then all the source code they're going to develop either in the class or in a lab, or maybe for any project you want to do, you can just store them there. It's going to be a single folder. Okay. In my case, I just choose some folder for my illustration. Okay. So once you can browse through your file system, just go to wherever you like. Okay. Wherever you store your workspace, and then you will say OK. Okay. And then it's going to start at Eclipse. Maybe for the very first time, take some time, but hopefully you will gradually become faster. Questions somewhere or no? Yes. You know what? I don't think it really matters. So I didn't really upgrade my Eclipse. I'm not too sure what the current version is. So I'm simply use the one I have been using since January this year. So I would say as long as, I think if that's Java code, it should be okay. It doesn't matter which version you're using. Doesn't matter. Yes? I would say it's okay to use other IDE, but just for the class illustration purpose, I'm going to use Eclipse. And no. So that's just the next point, just about to say. Because in the lab test, if I want you to create a Java project and create some Java file, you have to know how to use Eclipse. But it shouldn't be too far away from whatever IDE you're going to use, right? But it's an advantage to you. Try to use both. That's fine. Okay, that's kind of the Eclipse you will have. Let me just show you something very quickly before we get started. So over here, you can see something that's called Package Explorer. Okay, so this is going to show the list of projects you have built so far. Okay, for me, I already got 2 projects. For you, maybe empty. In case you don't have the Package Explorer, always there's there are several shortcuts. I'll try to remind you as I remember. Go to Window, you can see there's something called Show View. Okay, and under Show View, you will see Outline, which I'll mention is also very useful. You should make sure at least you have the Package Explorer here. Make sure you have that. And also make sure you also have something called Console over here. Console is actually for you to interact with your program by input and output, which I'll show you. I will show you only the output today. Okay? Make sure you got Console, you got Package Explorer. Okay. So now let's create a new project. How about that? Okay. So now let's say you will say File, New, Java Projects. Okay. So now just give a name. So the naming convention in Java is you should be capitalized, right, for every word. So let's say example project, something like that. I'll say finish. You will see that example project is now saved. Currently, there are no classes over there. So the most basic units in Java project are classes. Okay? So let's create just a list of classes without anything. I just want to show you the Package Explorer to explain the idea between packages and classes. Okay? So let's now create a list of classes. I'm just going to refer to my notes. Okay, how do you create classes? Right-click on the project and say New, and then go to Class. That's one way to do it. Or you can click on the project here and say File, New, and then Class. Doesn't matter which way you do. Okay? If I say Class, you just give a name. We'll talk about other features you can adjust later. Let's just call it cat, the animal, and finish. So now you can see that there's something called default package. Okay? Default package simply means there are no packages at the moment in your project. That's why it's called default. But we're going to create packages in just a moment. So you got a class called cat. Don't worry about the content. It's simply just empty. And then you can create another class. Okay, let's create a few. I'll tell you the name. Cat and then chair, a furniture. Cat, chair, and then also file, new, class. Chair and then circle, a shape. And then class, desk. File, new, class, desk. And then file, new, class, dog. Okay, one more. And then we got another shape, which is called square. New, and then. Okay, these are the classes. So now one thing that will be interesting for you to see. So you might be curious, how can I see these files in my file system outside Eclipse? So you should really go to where your workspace is. I'll show you how to go there. For example, in my case, I save all my files in this. Okay, let me just go there. So for example, I store that in a folder called Workspace. For example, you just go there and then, for example, Lecture Workspace, that's how I created the name. Under that, you will see there's something called Example Projects, the project name. Under that, we simply just have, we have bin and source. Just focus on source for the moment. If you go into source, you can see these are the Java files. Okay? Sometimes we might say you don't have to submit the whole projects. You can simply just submit some certain Java files. That's where you should look into. Okay? Go to your workspace, go into the project, and then go to Java files. Okay? That's how it works. So let's keep this window handy here. Let's see how it's going to change if you try to add packages. Well, it works pretty much like your computer. You wouldn't just put all your files in the flat level, right? that would be a disaster, right? It's really unorganized. You should always try to do some logical grouping of your Java classes to say, for example, desk and chair, they belong to the logical concept of furniture. Circle and square, they should be shape, things like that. We'll see different cases like this throughout the course. But let's do that very quickly as a practice. So let's go back to Eclipse over here, and then we can say, again, every time you want to create something under the project, right-click, and then new. Now I want a package. Okay? Let's say I want to group cat and dog into animal. And the convention is the package name should be all lower cases. Let's say animal. Okay, how about that? And finish. Now you will see this animal package here. At the same time, let's go back to your file system. There's an animal folder here, right? It makes sense. And empty at the moment. And it also makes sense. So now what we want to do is to drag and drop cat and dog into animal. You click on that and click on dog here. So select two things. Drag and drop them into animal. Okay, they're there. One thing I want you to see, Eclipse does something for you automatically. If you actually go into cat, you will see that it tells you it's in the package animal. Okay? Now let's go back to the file system. You got animal here, the folder, you got cat and dog, right? So everything actually happens seamlessly. However, you should not try to create a package from your file system and expecting that it will be reflected in the Eclipse. No, it doesn't work that way. Try to work only on the Eclipse. Okay? Good. Is it clear so far? I tend to speak quite fast. Maybe you don't notice that yet, but maybe later. But if I really speak too fast, slow me down, please. Okay, let's now do the other two packages very quickly, and then we are done with this particular small topic. Let's just create one more. Why don't you try it, and I'll do it at the same time. I want two more packages. I want a package called shape, which should include circle and square. I want another package called furniture, which will include chair and desk. Okay? Let's try to do that. New package furniture. And then let me drag and drop chair and desk into the furniture. So one thing I want you to notice is a very subtle point. You can see so far we still have the default package here. That's because we still have at least one class in your project that has no packages that it belongs to. Okay? Now let's create a last package. Now I want to do shape. Now let's drag and drop circle and square into it. Now I can predict once I drag these two last classes into this package, what's going to happen? There'll be no classes in your project that belong to no package, which means the default package disappear. Okay? Any questions about this? Yes? What's the EC package? What do you mean? The user package. Good question. I would say it's like why do you have folders in your computer system? It's actually for you to organize your files in a way that makes sense, right? Because it wouldn't really make sense to put a cat and dog, chair and square, everything together in a single level. So it actually makes more sense to have packages. But when you do your lab or you do your assignments or any projects later on, unless you're really told explicitly to create packages, otherwise completely up to you, right? It's a good practice. Yeah. Okay, good. That's about packages. So you can go through the slides. That's basically exactly what I just illustrated. Let's go on. Okay. So now I want to talk about utility classes. And I think the best thing, utility classes are actually quite an easy concept. They are simply just there are certain tricky things which I want to mention very quickly, just give you a very quick overview. And then the best way for you to really get to learn is by one simple example. And now I'm going to explain all the concepts using that single example. Okay? First of all, I want to give you some preview. Okay? Let me find my iPad. Okay? Because the chalkboard, I really hate chalkboard personally. So let me see if I can get this to work. Okay, good. Okay. Give me one moment. Okay, good. So now I would like to just mention certain, if you don't mind, can I sit? Okay. They should have some kind of like a stand for me, but they don't. Okay. But anytime if you find the iPad is disconnected, please let me know. Otherwise, you have no idea what I'm writing, right? It does happen before. Okay. Okay. You don't seem to see the good notes. Okay. I do have something here. Enter full screen. Okay. Okay, good. I believe there's some delay there. Let me just try that. I'm still experimenting. Let me see if it really goes not so well. Maybe I'll try to use the wire connection. Let me write something here. You don't seem to see anything. Okay. Bear with me 1 minute. Okay, let's not waste time. I will work out the technology a little bit better. It does work in some buildings. Somehow Wi-Fi doesn't quite work. I'll work out the technology possibly for next time. And I'll write on a chalkboard. Of course, that wouldn't be on a recording, right? Okay. So there will be certain things you have to learn for the utility classes. Let me write one example to you. Let's write a method signature, okay? So what's the signature of a method? That means you got all the information you need in order to do some computation. Let me write the most verbose or most complete signature you can have. Public static final int, let's say pi. So this is a valid line of Java code. Okay? Now, of course, I'm just using integer for simplicity. It should be a double, let's say 3.14 or something. Doesn't matter. So this is so-called an attributes. So attributes simply means it's some data that you store in your class. Okay? It's an attributes. So what about a method? Let's try a method here. Guys, please try to. Okay, let's try a method, and then I'm going to use a little bit different signature. Okay, let's say private, and then I'm going to leave this empty deliberately. Okay, I'm going to leave this empty as well. Now, I'm going to have, for example, double let's say get area. Double, and then let's say R for radius. So this is a method. Somehow it is going to get area of a circle with a radius R. Agree? Okay. Don't worry about how to implement that just yet. We'll talk about it. Okay. One more. So now I'm gonna leave this empty. Leave this empty. Leave this empty as well. And then I'll simply say, let me say string, for example. And then what about, let's say, get description. Just a method. I'm going to leave this empty. Let's talk about some stuff. Maybe we'll get to the example in just a moment. Let's number them. You got 1, 2, and 3. First of all, who can tell me, how can I tell number 1 is an attribute? Number 2 and number 3, they are actually methods. How do you tell syntactically? Yes? The assignment? I agree, yes. Well, this will be valid as well. How about that? Now you don't have assignment here, but that was a good point, yes. Yes? The brackets, yes, exactly. There's no bracket here. If you declare a variable here without brackets, that's an attribute. Over here, you can see you got this parenthesis, parenthesis, and parenthesis. That means it's a method. Now, for each method there, what you really specify inside the parenthesis is so-called parameters. It's also in the slides. Parameters means input, which means if you want to use this particular method to do some computation, what kind of input do you need? In this case, to really calculate the area, we need a radius. But now to get a description, we don't need anything. Okay? So the parameters is basically a list. You can have more than one parameters if you wish. We'll see example like that later in the course. Or you can just have empty. Okay? Parameters. And so now let's talk about over here. You can see all three of them actually got some data type. You got integer, you got double, you got string, right? So this, for the attribute, is called the type of your attributes. And these two over here has a slightly different name. It's also type, but it's called a return type, which means if you are trying to call this particular method here, it is going to do the computation and return something back to you. You can now use that value if you wish. Okay? It's called a return value, return type. What if it's a method, however, it does not return anything? What will be the return type? Void. Very good. Thank you. It doesn't return anything. Okay, just a very quick overview. Okay, that's the easy stuff. Okay, now here comes to the confusing part. Okay, I'm going to also talk about this in details in the slides. Okay, but I just want to give you a very quick overview. Over here you can see public, private, or empty, static or empty, or non-static. You have final or not final, right? So these are three possible so-called modifiers that you can do. Okay, I'm going to put it over here and then tell you about it. So to learn about these three modifiers, let's not focus too much on the program itself. Let's think about what's the idea behind. Okay. Okay, let's first talk about public. Category number 1. It's called access. It's so-called access modifier. Okay, it can be either public or it can be private or it can be neither. So neither is also an option. You can see that you don't necessarily have to always put public or private, right? So when I say access modifier, it's about the visibility. Okay? How visible is your attribute or method? In the case of public, anyone within the same project can access your attribute or method. If you say private, that's the most restrictive. Only the current class of this particular attribute or method can access this attribute or method. What about neither is something called the package level. That's kind of default. For example, let's say for this one here, we have string get description. Okay? So this one, the visibility is only within the package. Okay? I will illustrate this to you in the next lectures. Now, just an overview. Okay. Now, another one is static or non-static. So we call that I'll just call it uniqueness modifier. Okay, uniqueness modifiers. And then over here, it can be either static or nothing. I would just put here, that means nothing, right? Nothing means sometimes we say non-static. Okay. So static for now, I think the best way for you to now to understand is when I say something is static, that means there's only one copy there in your runtime. Yes, go ahead.
Are we going to cover protected?
Protected, we'll do that very briefly, maybe when we talk about inheritance. Yeah, maybe at the end, not yet. Okay. So static means only a single copy. When you say non-static, that means you may have multiple instances. When we talk about utility classes, everything is static, just to make things very simple. I'll illustrate that in just a moment. However, starting from week number 2, or maybe from the second half of week number 2, we'll talk about classes and objects, and that is non-static nature. Okay? Okay, one more. Also, we got something called assignable. Assignable simply means can you actually change the value of something. Assignable modifier. Okay, that's a third one over here with final. So now over here, for that one, you can either say final or just empty. So that means it's not final. So over here, you can see that the reason that I define the pi as a final, that means it's a constant. Pi should really remain a constant throughout the lifetime of your project because pi never changes. Should be 3.14 always. If something that might change its value, which we'll see a lot, then it's called a variable. In that case, it shouldn't be final. Okay, that's kind of so these are the 3 independent groups of modifiers that you will see. I just want to illustrate through some example here. I'll give you more next time, but at least we can try to review a little bit. So these are the most confusing things to really get through first. Any questions before I move on? Since I don't have the iPad ready today, so I think I will try to do Eclipse as much as possible, okay? So that you got everything on your recording. Okay. No questions? Okay. Okay, so now let's do something together. So everything I'm going to do in the coding here is going to be, you can also find the points on the slides as well. Okay, let's see how much we can go through today. Okay, now let's go back to your Eclipse. Okay. Let me close this, close this. I'll get back there. Okay, let me close that. Okay, so now I would like you to create a new project. Okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do two classes eventually to illustrate utility classes. Let's call that file new projects. File new projects. Java projects. Let's call that utility class. UTL, right? Utility class. Example, something like that. Okay, that's the projects. Okay. Okay, let's now file new and then class. First of all, let's create a new class. How should we call this class? So this class is called circle utilities. We're gonna create utilities like a tools for doing something with circles. Circle utilities. Okay, like that. Circle utilities. So here, don't worry just about public. I will explain that next time. Okay. Okay, let's do something here. So now, what we want to, so now here, let's understand what should be the structure of your utility class, or for any class in Java. In general, there should be two sections. So this is how you do comments in Java. So there should be section of attributes. Okay. And also, we also get section of methods. There should be two sections. As you get more experienced, you don't necessarily have to follow this simple dummy, two-section thing. You don't have to, but for the simplicity, also for for you to easily understand, let's do these sections for now. Okay. Basically, every class declares either a method or an attribute, a list of them. Okay. So now let's do an attribute here, and we're going to see how we can use the utility class. Okay. So now, first of all, let's do something like this. Let's type static int radius is assigned to 10. What does that mean? That means this is a static attribute with initial value 10 because we assign that to 10. Okay. So now let's think about, for this very simple example, how do we visualize this? That's really important because when things get a little bit more complicated, you should really know how to get things understood. Okay, let me draw a very simple diagram. We'll make the diagram as more complicated as we need to. Okay, so now how do you visualize a utility class? How do you do that? Okay, we draw boxes. Okay, so now at the moment there's only one attribute, so it's easy. First of all, we draw a box over here. At the top, we identify the class. In this case, it's called circle utilities. Circle utilities. Okay, put a name there. And the box is going to get longer and longer as we add more things. But for now, there's only one piece of information there. It's called radius. Okay, I'm going to separate that. So this is the name of the attributes, which has the initial value 10. Agree? Okay. And that's how we visualize what we have built so far. Very simple. Let's see how we can use this utility class. We need another class to do that. Go back to your package explorer here. Let's now say file, new, and class. So let's say you can say CU, okay, circle utilities. I would say, just say application, very simple application. We're going to use it. And say finish. Okay. We're gonna show you how you can do more proper documentation using JavaDoc for your classes next time. But for now, let's just do some comments. This is a class that uses circle utilities. Okay, let's see how we can do it. First of all, we know that the circle utility has only one information there, which is radius of type integer. How do we get that value? We gotta store that somewhere, or we can just print it out directly. I'll show you both. Okay. Okay. I can say integer. Okay. First of all, use a variable to store. You can say integer, let's say I, okay, is assigned. Now, the CU application is a different class from the circle utilities. So if you want to access to this particular attribute here, you have to mention the class name and also the attribute name using a dot. You're going to say circle utilities dot radius. Okay, let's do that. Dot. Now you can see that in Eclipse, if you say circle utilities dot, it's going to show you all the attribute or methods you can call. It's quite handy, right? So now you can see radius is one of them. Click on that, you got radius. Just that. So what's going to happen? That means we basically are creating another variable called I. Over there, we say we store 10 into I. That's what we have done. Okay? Now let's try something here. System.out.println I. Okay, let's print it out. What do I have? There's one thing I forgot. Okay, there's something I want to show you quickly on the slides, and then I'm going to change that. Okay. Let's go back to the slides. There's one thing I want to show you. So all these example 1.1, 1.2 are exactly what I'm going to demonstrate on the Eclipse. I want you to have a look at the main method. If you click on that, okay. So there is a very special method in Java. So public static void, main, but the name is actually called main, which means if you are trying to execute your project, there should be an entry point for you to start execution. Main method is the way to go. So if you want to build your simple application for your console, that's the class you have to, that's kind of the method you should really build. I'll show you how to do it, okay? That's something, that's a slide you will see, okay? Let's now go back to the Eclipse, okay? How do I create a main method? I forgot to do it, okay? So you can either type it out by yourself, or you can say main, and then control space on your computer. Then they will show you the main method. Can you see that? Okay, control space. If you click on that, they actually put a method for you. Okay. Now I'm going to cut what I typed before and paste them over here. That's about right. Okay. So let's see what's going to happen here. I is, what do you think will be the output? 10, don't you agree? So now how do we execute the code? So now there are different ways. The easiest way is, you can see there's a play button here, right? If you click on that, so this is so-called a console. That's why I said the console is very useful. In case you don't see your console here, you got to go to Window and Show View, and then go to Console over here. Okay? So now it tells you I is 10, because I stores the value of 10 over here. One thing to note, we now got separate copies of the value 10. This is one copy. This is another separate copy, right? They're different. Okay. So now let me do something to illustrate my point here. So you can just copy this line here and say, I'll say CU. Okay, just make it a little bit easier. CU dot radius is. So now I want you to just copy this part. That's another way how you can do it. So what does this do? It's going to print out this particular string followed by whatever current value it is in circle utilities.radius, right? So now, shouldn't be too surprising that you should say cu.radius is 10. Let's double check with that, and then we'll see the interesting part. Okay? So now, if I say something like this, I is assigned to 20. And I'm going to print out exactly the two things as before, just copy and paste. How do you think the output is going to change? What about line number 10? Yes. I is 20. Okay. What about line number 11? Would that be 20?
No.
Why?
That's not modified.
Yeah, because they're separate copies, right? If you think about line number 10, think about line number 9. Line number 9 only try to modify this particular variable box. So it's going to change that from 10 to 20. Somehow this is a separate copy which is unaffected. So you will still get circle utilities.radius being 10 and then I being 20, right? Why do I mention this? It's not so interesting for integers, Boolean, or any primitive type. However, when we get to talk about objects, the behavior will be challenging, will be quite confusing. So I want you to understand this very clearly first. Okay? That's good? Very good. Okay, let's go on. One more thing. Let me show you how you can change the value as well. That's exactly what you mentioned there. So 20 and 10. Just try one more. Okay? So now let's say, how do we change the radius to be 20 as well? You can certainly assign to it. You can say circle.radius is assigned to 20. Okay, you can also do that. Okay. Now if you try to execute the same code again, now you will see that they are now both 20, right? Because what I did in line number 12 was I'm trying to modify this from 10 to 20. That's what I try to do, okay? Not too difficult, right? Okay. Okay, let's now do a few more attributes and then we'll try method. Method is more interesting, okay? Okay, we got radius here. Let me say private. I'll talk about private and public next week. Let's say private static final int. Since we talk about final, it should be a constant. And the convention for Java constant, it should be all capitals. So let's say we know that if you want to go from radius into diameter, it should be multiplied by 2, right? That's quite obvious, right? Radius to diameter is equal to 2. Okay, one more. Public static final int pi. I just make it int rather than double. Okay, so what we have achieved so far. Okay. Let's not worry about the I anymore. Let's focus on the same utility class. Okay. I'll put back the original value here. Okay. So now, since we got 3 attributes, so we also got the radius to diameter over here. That's actually 2. And we got the third one, which is pi. That is 3. Okay. So we're growing the states for this particular circle utilities. Okay. Okay. Now, how do we do methods? So the way we do methods is, let's think about how we do methods. I'll do one here first. By the way, everything, you will notice that everything so far we have declared for the attribute are static. So that's why it's called utility classes. Okay? Static int get diameter. Okay, first of all, don't worry about the compile time error. Let's have a look at this. So here you can see this method here, it takes no parameter, takes no input. And then it's going to return an integer. Okay, I'll write it down for you. Put a star here, like that. Okay, this method has no parameter, no inputs. And it returns an integer. Input and output, okay? We're going to return something. Let's say, based on the current value of the radius, I would like to return what the corresponding diameter is. That's easy. Let's do that. Okay. Easy is good. So there are different ways. Well, it's simple, but there are different ways you can do it. The simplest way is to say return. Every time, here, a method that returns something is called an accessor. Okay, that's a term. Did you learn about this term in 2022? No? Okay. I'll just write down the word first. Okay. Accessor means it's trying to access something without changing anything. Okay. Something called accessor as opposed to a mutator. So these are the two kinds of methods you can have. Okay. Accessors means returns no change to states. For example, when we say we want to get a diameter, we just want to know, according to the current value of the radius, what should be the corresponding diameter. We have no intention to change it. Okay? Mutator, on the other hand, first of all, it does not return. And it will change states. Changes the states. Okay, that's the difference. I'm pretty sure you know, maybe know more or less the concept already, just new terms for you. Because the other section, I think they talk about accessor mutator as well, just to mention. Okay, so now we're going to return some expression here because it's going to return an integer. So let's try to use this. So anything that's already declared, you can use it. So we can say radius to diameter, right? We can put it here. That means we're trying to use it. Times radius. That's what we'll return. One thing I want you to pay attention to. When you're programming Eclipse, it actually shows you quite a good discipline for figuring out the scope. You can see the color of this radius to diameter is blue. You can see when you move your mouse on that, it shows you which radius to diameter it is corresponding to. It's corresponding to this, right? Which means it's going to be 2 at the runtime. And the radius over here is referring to the radius 10 over here, the current value. But depending on what the current value is. Okay? So now, this is one way to do it, but I'll show you another way. Another way is, it's like a little bit more general pattern. For each method, you may want to declare some local variables to really do some intermediate manipulations of values before you return something that's something for the final return value. What I can do is, I can say integer diameter, for example. So a diameter is now a local variable, which means it can only be used within this method over here. Anything outside this method, you cannot use it. Okay. Diameter is equal to exactly the same expression over here. And then you can say return diameter. Okay so far? Okay, yeah. Okay, this is an example accessor. Okay, let's do a mutator right away. A mutator returns nothing. As you guys know about, if a method returns nothing, we still have to put a return type, which is void. Okay, let's now define a mutator. Let's say the mutator is going to be called, we want to change the value for the radius. Okay, just put a static and void set radius. And then let's say this time we do take some input for set the radius. Hey, think about this. How do we determine if there should be a parameter or input or not? This is how you think of it. If my computation would be able to carry on with the attributes I have already, I don't need any parameter. If I need any additional information for me to complete the computation, then I would need a parameter. In this case, if I want to set a radius to be a new value, is this a new value? No, this is not. This is not. I need a new value, so you should give that to me as an input. That's why we need a new parameter. Okay? So here you would say integer new radius. Okay? I will illustrate something that you should really pay attention to in just a moment. The reason that, for now, the reason that I choose new radius rather than radius is because I already have an attribute name called radius. It would be allowed in Eclipse or in Java, but you have to be careful if the consequence is really what you intend to do. Okay? I'll do the right way, and I'll show you what could be wrong if you change that to radius only. Okay? So now, this, I'll just put some comment here for you. You'll say this. Okay? This method returns no value, i.e. void. So it is a mutator, okay? Which changes some attribute without returning, okay? Something like that. Okay, that should be quite, now, how do we do that? This one should be rather easy, right? Yep, should be, now here. Should I say new radius is assigned to radius? No, the other way around, right? Okay, I hope you know why, right? Because here, again, just quick review on the assignments. Whenever you put an assignment in Java using a single equal sign, you're trying to change the value of the left-hand side using the value from the right-hand side. Okay? This will also apply when we talk about objects, which will be a little bit more tricky. But the general principle is always the same for assignments. Okay? So this is apparently wrong. So you got to do radius assigned to this. Thank you. Oh, guys, there's something I want to mention to you very quickly. So when you do the lab test, you can see now, since I'm lecturing, so I can afford to make mistake. You guys will tell me anyway, right? Or the Eclipse will tell me. But during the lab test, you're on your own. So whenever you see any, for example, let's say if you did the same mistake as I just did, somehow you do something like that. You will see this some red line over here. Whenever you see that, you should really pause your development right away. Because if you submit something that with errors, that means we cannot run your code. If we cannot run your code, you will get very low marks for your lab test, right? That's something we really want you to really get used to. Whenever you're developing software, you better run, okay? Yes? You mean how many times you can submit? You can submit for as many times as you like before the deadline. Only the final one will count, yes. Did you have a question? No, okay. Yes? Without returning. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, guys, by the way, if you really cannot really catch up with the typing speed or you miss something, I'm going to post this source code. But I think typing with me also can help you understand, right? But it's completely up to you. Yeah. Okay, so now let's change the spec. and do something more. Okay, let me just now go back to the application here. Okay, to avoid confusion, okay, you can have as many applications as you like in your project, as many as you like. But when you execute your project, you gotta specify which particular main method you want to execute, right? Okay, so let me show you. So now let's say I want to create just another one. File, new, class. CU, application 2. This is another application because I just want to start clean. And I want to put a main method here. You can put main here and control space. It's going to put a main method for you. Okay? Okay, so now, I'm not too sure why I get some red line over here. I don't think there's any error. Maybe it's still lagging from my GUI, so don't worry about it. Okay, so now what do we want to do? So now this is how we start with. We got radius, we got this, and we got 3 attributes. Let's now go back to our circle utilities and see how things will change. I think I will try to finish off in a few minutes, okay? And then I will encourage you to really go over the slides. It's already on the web over the weekend, and then I will go over them quickly, okay? Yeah, on Tuesday. So basically, the way we're going to grow the states is by having additional 2 spaces for the 2 methods. Everything that you declare in your Java utility class is going to be included in the visualization. In this case, you do have the get diameter, and also you get whatever implementation idea detail it is. And then you also get set, radius, and also the detail. You will see the larger example on the slides. Okay? Since it's the first class, I'll stop here, and then now I more or less know the pace of the class. Okay? Just give you a quick feedback. Is it too fast, too slow? It's okay? Okay, good. You can feel free to send me an email if you got questions. I'll see you on Tuesday.